The Evolution Security Podcast.
We're excited to be offering our 16-hour defensive pistol and combatives and weapons integration course in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the 19th and 20th of November, 2022. Defensive pistol is a course focusing on a fundamental defensive pistol platform from the holster, moving into dynamic shooting principles, along with a primer in close quarters firing solutions. You will leave this class having a solid concealed carry shooting platform and also, most importantly, how to practice. The Combatives and Weapons Integration class provides the client with a foundational understanding of self-protection techniques and tactics that can prepare you for dealing with and surviving a violent assault. This class has a foundation in wrestling and jiu-jitsu and is for any practitioner of any body type or age. Lastly, at the end of the day, there will be a Lite validation exercise, or in other words, a Lite force-on-force evolution with a blue gun or a training blade, providing confidence in the techniques learned. To sign up for this course or for more information, go to the Eventbrite link in the show notes or go to our website at evosec.org and look in current events.
Welcome, everybody, to the EvoSec podcast. This is going to be fun because it's one of our special gear and mindset episodes, a time when Eric and I get to hang out and talk to each other about some fun stuff that we have on our minds, and you get to come along while Eric and I just have a hangout session. How you doing, brother?
Doing wonderful, man. Just had an awesome session at the range today. You know, it's like I was texting you that as I was ending my session, I said, man, I'm really looking forward to this show. Because, I mean, we just get to hang out, man. And it's jovial. It's easygoing. We love our awesome guests. But sometimes, man, it's just awesome just to hang out and just talk, man. So I think we got some fun subjects for our audience tonight.
Certainly.
I believe so.
Yeah, I agree, buddy. Well, Eric, it is Saturday night. We've had a good day today. I've been busy playing guitar and doing a handful of things and just enjoying my day. So I thought it'd be awesome if we could have a drink together, man.
Sounds good.
What you got?
Sounds
what
good.
you got?
Well, in this in my old Mug Club mug that I got from the Ram in Olympia, Washington, or actually this was in Lacey, I've got some Southern Pines Manalaw IPA. Pretty darn good, man. And I love supporting local breweries. So, yeah, it's tasty stuff, man. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. Well, I've got... Now, this is kind of interesting. So, Eric, I've told you about this brewer here in Oklahoma. And, man, we often talk about that amazing beer, like you talked about that Ram Brewery in Olympia and Lacey. There's just some amazing beer in the Pacific Northwest, and that was one of the funnest parts. Anytime we would have ECQC, we would abstain, right, and make sure we were drinking enough water and eating healthy food. But boy, after getting our butts kicked for 3 days, we would make sure we grabbed some growlers of beer from The Rock and man, just amazing IPAs. And Eric, there was one called the Sledgehammer, and I'll tell you what, man, Coop makes a IPA. And interesting enough, I was going to tell a story, and the fact that this is an Oklahoma brewery, and by the way, audience that can see this, so this is a special edition Oktoberfest. It's a pretty good beer. I'm enjoying it. But so Oklahoma, most people that are outside of Oklahoma, it's like people like me that don't want to go places where there are hurricanes and or earthquakes, etc. Lots of people are scared of Oklahoma because of all the tornadoes, But so that brewer is in Oklahoma City now. There is a culmination or a convergence of a major cold front from Canada and then a hot front from the Gulf of Mexico, and it converges right at Oklahoma City. There has been more tornadoes that have hit Oklahoma City than anywhere on earth. So it's kind of an interesting thing. They call their IPA, it's called the F5, and man, it's as good as that Sledgehammer, in my opinion, from the Rock. And the fun thing is, I discovered that Coop F5 backstage at the Foo Fighters. So apparently,
and that's awesome. And it was the Foo Fighters were the ones that grabbed it, right? So you just having some of their beer they had back behind the stage.
Oh yeah, they had a cooler of beer back there, and apparently they wanted to get some local beer, and so someone hooked them up with Coop, and yeah, that was the first time that I had some F5, and I've been hooked on it since.
Well, I believe you grabbed some of that F5 the last time I was there. I think, yeah, when we hosted Cecil Birch for his class, I think we had some after.
I think I recall that because I was excited to show you that good beer, since we always had that good stuff up there in Pacific Northwest.
Well, Aaron, and just for the audience out there, if you hear me a little bit nasally, I've been horribly sick this last week and a half. I had a bad sinus infection. I actually had to go back on antibiotics several days ago. I feel a lot better today. I actually, we're going to add some accountability, but I actually got to make it to jiu-jitsu as well. So,
excellent.
Yeah. But anyway, so I might be snorting a little bit, so forgive me, audience. That's just the way it goes.
You're inducing me to clear my throat. All right, bro. Well, we've got a few topics to talk about tonight, but I think one of the main ones is from you. What you got?
Well, Aaron, I think, being a gear and mindset show, I would say that this particular topic covers both gear and mindset, because, Aaron, wouldn't you agree that having solid communications is a very important preparation for, let's say, for instance, times get tough, or, under natural emergencies, hurricanes, you name it, communications is important. And let's face it, this cell phone here I'm holding, unfortunately, that isn't going to necessarily be the ticket if the grid goes down, or just in some emergencies. A good example was back during 9/11 when the towers came down. People couldn't make cell calls because the cell towers were jammed up, and I think it also had something to do with they might have made sure comms were making it through for emergency communication. So I think that was part of it. But anyway, there's all kinds of instances where emergency situations happen where cell towers aren't working. So,
man,
we're going to kind of.
I was going to say that sounds like an awesome topic, and I know for a fact that with your career, you're an expert on this stuff. Now,
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Before we hand that off to you, bro, I did want to mention some info about our sponsors.
Let's do it.
Well, so something that we haven't talked about in a while is how much we really dig Tenacore, right? Jeff Mao, if you're familiar with him and his company Tenacore, they are legit. Jeff's legit, and he researches and tests everything. It took him, I think, a year with prototypes for his first Velo holster to come out. But one thing I haven't talked about in a while, man, my go-to holster is this cartoon. You can see it here on those of you that are watching on YouTube. So this is the Cartoon 3. Now, I tweak mine a little bit. I don't like sweat guards on my holsters, so I Dremel those puppies off. But if you like sweat guards, they come with sweat guards. So, man, what's amazing about this holster, Eric, and again, why it's become my go-to, this is what I grabbed for my new 48 that I commandeered from my wife. But this is for my my MOS 17 Gen 5 that's my main training and competition gun these days. But the thing is with the cartoon, Jeff designed this to be a great holster that is actually good to go between hip carry and appendix carry. So, I mean, there's just ridiculous adjustments on it. Different camming bars that you can put on here, these discrete clips, discrete carry concept clips, which are, man, that game changer in the holster industry, if you ask me. You can angle these and raise them and high and raise them and lower them for different ride heights and, man, just canting, etc. You can really adjust this holster. Now, I did add some foam and some Velcro to mine, but it's just an excellent holster. And every now and then I have to carry on my hip, which, bro, I hate it. Once you get used to carrying appendix, hip carry stinks. Just makes your,
I agree.
Interesting enough, I mean, it makes your pants tighter and just rubbing on your hip, and I just don't like it, man. So for those of you that don't carry appendix yet and you feel it's uncomfortable, you know what? It takes a little getting used to once you start it. But it's just that whole thing. Once I got used to it, man, it's really the only way to go. And I complain about it because at gigs I need to carry on the hip because it, for one thing, pushes my guitar out from my abdomen, and also it scratches the crap out of my guitars. So even though it's behind a shirt, it still scratches my guitars because they're nitrocellulose lacquer that's kind of soft. So,
well, and Aaron, I just took off real quick. I'm wearing my Glock 19 in my Velo 4, and incidentally enough, I'm carrying it within.
Are you doing a strip tease, brother?
So, getting a little more comfortable, but yeah, I'm wearing it in a Tenacore zero belt. So, notice I've got my good old clinch pick on the end.
Rock on.
Yeah, excellent comfort.
Yeah, I've got my zero belt on too. People need to go to tenacore.com, check out all the holsters they have, just all kinds of amazing carry gear, from holsters outside the waistband, inside the waistband, appendix carry, and then, again, those zero belts are brilliant. Again, when I saw them first, I thought, man, how's that going to work? That looks like how you pull the belt behind the buckle. It's like, man, that seems like it's going to be cumbersome. It's not at all. It's actually
on and off so easy. Yeah,
yep.
I love it.
Well, so go to tennecore.com, check out what Jeff and his crew have to offer because it's amazing gear. So,
Well, Aaron,
go ahead.
go ahead.
We're going to argue about going ahead. What you got?
Well, man, I'm just going to mention one of our other favorite sponsors here. You know, a little bit of funkiness there, but this gi here, this is actually, I go back and
Oh,
forth.
bro, that's your, is that your Axiom?
No, this is, it's funny. I forget what exact model this is. It's similar to the Axiom. I think they called it the Gorilla Weave. Maybe it was Black Knight or something like that. I'll look.
In other words, it was their flagship at the time.
Yeah, in black for certain. I mean, it's very, very much just like the Axiom. Actually, I think the weave was just slightly lighter than the Axiom.
Okay.
This is one of my favorite ones, man. I love that. I just used that just the other morning.
I remember when I was at your place again for another ECQC up there in Washington, and I remember filling that gi. I was like, holy cow. And that got me to where I needed to get my own. I've got a couple of Origins now too, but I'm gonna let you talk, bro.
Yeah, and quite frankly, they just make so much more. That's probably the most important gear from Origin to me is my gis. But then also they've got incredible supplements, the Jocko Fuel supplements. They've got jeans, they've got hoodies, they've got T-shirts, they've got any type of apparel that you can think of that you want to look cool in. Origin's got it, and again, like I said, the supplements that keep us going after hard workouts and help us recover. So if you're interested in any of those products, go. Excuse me. If you're interested in any of those products, go to originmain.com. And please go into the show notes. If you click on the affiliate link, we get a little bit of kickback from it. So that's how we keep the lights on is sponsors like Origin and Tennecore, so on and so forth. So do us a favor and go patronize them.
I will add real quick, bro, that this week, I tried some different green juice because, like a lot of us, I don't get enough vegetables and fruit. So I thought I would try another green juice because I'm usually into the Jocko greens, but I thought I would try something else for fun. And I'll tell you, I got this stuff in. I won't say it by name because, shame. It tasted terrible. So yesterday morning literally was the first time I tried it. It's like, man, this tastes terrible. So I actually went online and grabbed some Jocko Fuel, and I guess they had a distributor right by me. I ordered it that morning and it was on my porch by 7 p.m.
Awesome.
And that stuff, if you've ever had green juice and you didn't think it tastes good, get some Jocko greens because it's good stuff.
Oh yeah, it's delicious.
Because I don't have it in front of me, but they have, since it has a ton of vegetables, greens, and it has a lot of fruit in it, okay? And one of the things it has is some monk fruit, I believe, and it naturally sweetens it. That was the one thing about that other green juice is it tasted terrible. There was no sweetener in it whatsoever. You can get natural sweetener like the Jocko greens, but yeah, that green juice is good stuff. So I didn't want to forget to say something about that.
Oh yeah, excellent point. Yeah, it's delicious. I've got some downstairs. I had some this morning myself. So yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's good stuff, and I was glad you had some too. Well,
and again, please go to the show notes and find the affiliate link. That'll help us out, folks.
Certainly.
And I'd also like to remind audience members, if you're getting something out of this show, please share it with a friend, share it with family members, and make sure that you subscribe. And then on YouTube, subscribe and share our videos as well, because we're trying to beef our audience up there. I mean, compared to our audio, I mean, we have thousands and thousands of downloads on audio, but we just got a handful on YouTube. So anybody out there wants to help us beef up our YouTube audience, we'd appreciate it.
Amen. Well, let's get back to some comms conversation.
Well, awesome, Aaron. So I'm going to try to be fairly concise in how I make some of these recommendations, and I'm also going to make sure I don't get overly technical. Now, we got very smart audience members. I don't intend to say our audience members wouldn't understand. It's just that we don't want to lose some folks that aren't interested in all the technicalities. And I'm going to be posting a lot of information on the show notes that people can dig into it further. But bottom line is, I did want to mention one technology that I think is important with your cell phone, and I've mentioned this before, but I try to carry these with me most of the time, and that's these Jabra. Am I saying that right? Yeah, I feel silly. Yeah, Jabra. These are Elite 3s. They're a little bit less expensive than the ones that I had before. But unfortunately, even though they're water resistant, I washed my 65T Actives in the washer, and one of them didn't work very good after that. So my wife, she got me this pair. I do plan on upgrading to the 75 Ts here shortly. But the main point behind this is that I can have an open phone call with somebody important to me and pop this into my ear, and of course have hands-free comms, and of course that can be dealing with calling 911, so on and so forth. Or I mentioned this before, let's say you got a missing child and you're wanting to vector in. You got you got your wife with you, or say for instance you were with me and we're just trying to vector in and find a child. That's just another good way of communicating. But there's also another aspect of this, is using the app Signal. Let's just say, for instance, there was the capabilities to have cell coverage and you needed multiple people on a communication line at once. You also have end-to-end encryption on Signal. Now, I'm not saying that if times are real tough that encryption couldn't be broke. I don't know, for instance, if it can be broke, or if let's say, for instance, the three-letter agencies can listen into it or not. I'm not sure about that. But overall, it's pretty secure. And that's just one thing that you could have team comms update people using that same method. So I just thought I'd mention that. That may be something of use for you folks out there. But moving on to something a lot more practical, and that's actual radio communications. And I've got a handful of radios here. This here is actually a ham radio, VHF, UHF. It's a Yaesu VX6. And line of sight, just from radio to radio, it's probably reliable up to about a mile, maybe a little more, depending on what's between the two of you and what type antenna systems that you have.
So, Eric, are you saying, just let me ask some questions here, because
yeah, sure,
because I'm getting an education here right along with our audience. So in that instance, it's kind of like a fancy walkie-talkie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you do of course have to have a license for this. Mm-hmm. It's not tough. And I'm going to hit a lot further on ham radio, but bottom line is to operate this legally, you need your technician license from the FCC. And frankly, I recommend people that are interested in radio comms. It's just a good education. It only takes, you can study for a week or two using an app that I can recommend and put it in the show notes that you can easily pass the test. Now, if you want to go further, which we're going to talk here in a second. Now, I've got my main rig that's sitting on the table here, but this is also, this is a Yaesu 857 Delta. This is an all-band radio HF. It goes up to 100 watts on HF, but it also does UHF, VHF, but at a much higher power. I believe the UHF is 20 watts, and I think that the VHF is up to 50. I may have that wrong, but that's okay. But this is one of my portable rigs that I can throw in a backpack, and I can use batteries for this, which that's another aspect of this that you need to be able to charge batteries, say with solar, which is what I have, and other means. So those are a few of the HF rigs, or one of the HF rigs there. But if folks don't want to get a license, the service that I recommend is called MURS, and that's multi-use radio service. And the reason I've been recommending that recently is because you don't have to have a license. And it also isn't in the common FRS or GMRS, which GMRS you have to have a license for as well, but that's simply just applying for it and sending in a fee to the FCC. It's not that big of a deal, but you do have to have a license for that. So folks will buy those walkie-talkies at, say, Walmart that'll do GMRS, and I got to be mindful of that they're transmitting on GMRS frequencies, they're supposed to have a license. But the FRS frequencies that are on those radios, no big deal. But those FRS frequencies, everybody's running around with walkie-talkies. Mm-hmm. So the MURS is going to be less likely to have interference, which I'm actually going to be setting up a neighborhood network. I've already talked with several of my buddies and neighbors. We're going to set up a MURS network for emergencies, because a lot of those guys are not interested in getting into any ham.
Bro, are you talking about your spec ops fire team in your neighborhood?
Maybe so. And maybe so.
What?
I've got some good neighbors, man.
Can't wait to meet them. Well, hey, real quick before you go further, you keep mentioning HF radios. Now, I'm going to assume that's high frequency, right?
Yes, and I'll just go over a few of the frequencies. So the VHF and UHF is roughly around 140, 145 megahertz. So, a little bit higher than your regular FM, like 95 megahertz to around 107 is your normal FM radio station. So these are just a bit higher, and it is a form of FM.
Oh, okay.
So, but on the UHF side, it's around 440 megahertz. On HF, they're actually quite a bit lower. So, like right now, I'm monitoring 14.187 megahertz, and that's what we call 20 meters, because it's close to 20 meters for a full wavelength. So that's why a lot of hams you'll hear us talk about 40 meters, 60 meters, 160 meters, so on and so forth. That's what it's actually denoting, is the actual length of the wavelength.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so just to fully answer your question, the 40 meters is around 7 megahertz. So again, the smaller radios, again, the smaller antenna, but for instance, I was going to mention this here in just a minute, but the antenna that's feeding this radio currently, and I just have a little bit of noise in the background. I don't see any carriers right now. The antenna that's feeding that, Aaron, is in the back of my trees, and it's what's called a delta loop. So I have coax running from my radio here out to the back side of my yard to some trees, and up at about, it's not really high, it's not optimal height, but at around 20 feet, I've got a huge wire triangle that I just went to Lowe's and bought some 14 gauge wire, and I used a basic formula to calculate the length of the wire that would create resonance, or that the frequency would be resonant on the main frequencies that I would use. And so I cut it for, excuse me, for 40 meters. I believe the final measurement, I had it somewhere around 139 feet complete length of wire. And so, each leg of the triangle is about 40 feet or so long. And and so it's up elevated in the trees at 20 feet. And man, I've talked all around the world on that antenna. It's just wire.
So assuming that the dielectric insulation is still on it, you don't strip
Yes.
it. I mean, it's not bare wire. It's got insulation.
Correct. And the reality is, Aaron, you could use bare wire, but I mean the insulated wire, there's no reason to remove it.
Okay.
So, but yeah, and that keeps the wire. Of course, copper tarnishes over time, and so that keeps the wire in better shape for longer. But here in just a minute, I'm going to see if I can get some folks on that antenna here in just a minute. But for one demo, I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to see if I can get a buddy on here. Hold on a second. Let me make sure I got his call sign correct, because I just actually just found him on the radio just the other day. Let me see if I can get him here.
This is fun.
Make sure that we can hear this here. K4 DFM, this is K7 ECQ. K4 DFM, this is K7 ECQ. You there? So he warned me that he may or may not be listening. Hold on a second.
K4CQ, K4DFM.
Hey, DW, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, hanging in there, man. You got there with something sitting here trying to hold my eyes open now.
Oh, I gotcha. Maybe you were ready to go to bed, huh, buddy?
I'm going to tell you what, it won't be long.
Well, listen, DW, like I said, you won't be able to hear him, but I have my twin brother. He and I, like I had mentioned, we have a podcast together. It's a self-defense and tactical show. But in this case, we're doing a little segment on communication. So I'm just demoing to our audience, both on video and audio, just how we're communicating over a repeater. And for our audience out there, I'm not going to say exactly where DW is, but he's about 2.5 hours from me right now. Back to you, DW.
Well, okay, sounds interesting, but go ahead, I'm game.
Well, good deal, buddy. Listen, I'm going to get back to this show, but I really appreciate you coming back to me because it helps me demo some of the utility of ham radio.
Yes, sir, no problem. Well, I appreciate you coming back to me, man. Like I said, I'm sitting right here trying to keep my eyes open tonight. Go ahead.
Well, good, DW. Well, listen, brother, you have a blessed evening. Get you some rest. This is K7ECQ. I'll be clear.
All right, Eric. Well, same thanks to you, man. And once again, I appreciate the call. I appreciate talking to you, man. Have a good one. K4DFM, clear.
So Eric, that's super cool, and that's fun getting to. So you basically became friends with him over radio, assuming.
Yeah, and we're just acquaintances. I was doing a test on the repeater, and just so the audience understands, like I said, this is only capable line of sight, like from radio to radio, at reliably around a mile, sometimes more. But what I just did then is there is a repeater about 5 miles from my house that is. It's on the top of a water tower, and and so that has connection to like I believe around 14 different repeaters that covers a huge swath of North Carolina. And the beauty about it is, Aaron, is that even under emergencies, amateur radio operators who maintain those repeaters, they have emergency power, like with generators, and so they can keep those repeaters up.
So if you've got battery power in that, you can bounce off those repeaters and speak over a long long distance, right? Fairly long distance, anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
And
that's go ahead.
I was just going to say, to clarify, or at least mention to our audience that a lot of them know that you are in communications, and so your job, that's what got you into this, right? Or gave you interest into it in ham radio?
Well, what's interesting is that, yes, I was in communications in the Army, but really what led me to get into ham radio, frankly, was for emergency preparedness.
Okay.
And when I got into it, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I do. But once you get into it, it's just another fun hobby. And again, being that I don't work in this type of communications within the Army, but obviously it's radio comms, so a lot of it has similarities. But I think that's what I was going to get at, is that that's one of the reasons, even though with MURS you don't need a license, but with ham radio, that's one of the reasons I recommend people at least get their technician, because it helps you understand radio theory and radio propagation, and it's just another avenue for learning. I got one of my other radios beeping at me. It's one of my DMR radios I was going to show here in just a second. But yeah, you got any more questions about that?
Not that I can think of right now, brother.
Well, let's see real quick. Making all this noise. Not a whole lot of activity on 20 right now. Let me see. Yeah, there are a lot quieter signals too.
Sierra Papa, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I'm talking to Kilo Oscar 4, Yankee Juliet Alpha, nice 5-8 signal coming to the park, QSL.
So you might have heard he's in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let me see if I can get into this.
Roger. Thanks for hitting us up on late shift this evening and Parks on the Air weekend. I sure do appreciate it. 73 with KO4YJA and QRZ for Parks on the Air.
Kilo November 6, Kilo India.
Kilowatt 4 Foxtrot, Mike India.
Aaron, can you hear that okay?
Oh, yeah. It's interesting.
Roger to 5-9 in North Carolina, and please stand by for a second operator here. Go for a second.
Roger that, you're a 5-7, and my location, I'm just leaving Nova Scotia.
Wow.
Oh, QSL coast to coast. We just had a California, now we got Nova Scotia. What an evening. Hey, anyway, thanks for the contact. Thanks for hunting us. I got to have you stand by for a second operator, QSL.
W0DY in Oklahoma, calling CQ20 and standing by.
Oklahoma.
K7 ECQ.
Kilowatt 7 Echo Charlie Queen, I believe. Is that correct, over?
Roger. Kilo 7 Echo Charlie Quebec. The name is Eric. Echo Romeo India Charlie here in North Carolina.
Very good, Eric. Whiskey Zero Delta Yankee. I got you about a 5 and 2. Got a good copy, and just kind of noisy out this way, and not running much power and much of an antenna. Just an end-fed half-wave up about 25 feet. Name is John. We're in northern Oklahoma and running 100 watts out there to you.
Good.
K7ECQ W0DY.
I have Whiskey Zero Delta Yankee. Was that correct?
QSL. You are right, over.
Yeah, incidentally enough, I'm talking, and if you don't want this going over there, I understand. I'm demonstrating on a podcast with my twin brother. He's actually in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this is an actual tactical and self-defense podcast, and we're just demoing communications. But again, if you don't want this over there, I understand.
No problem. Just enjoying ham radio here, and however it works and whatever demonstrations we can do is fine with me. It's about 77 degrees, and actually 76 degrees now. It's gone down. Getting cooler here in northern Oklahoma tonight. We're about 100 miles north of Oklahoma City. K7ECQ W0DY.
That sounds like he's close to me.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, John. Well, listen, we're going to go ahead and move on here. And let me give you your signal report. You're a 5.7 again here into North Carolina. Got a really, really clear signal. So thank you so much for your help in this. I'm going to go ahead and be clear on your last. This is K7ECQ, clear with Whiskey Zero Delta Yankee. Thank you.
Oh, Roger. Well, 73s. We'll hang around and see if we can find someone else this evening, just seeing if the radio is working tonight. It seems to be getting out at least a little ways. So best of 73s to you there, and have a good evening. K7ECQ W0DY. Bye-bye.
73s.
That's cool. It's fun, man. This is some old school stuff. We're on a podcast and then having some FM, high FM frequency radio, correct? In that high?
Yeah, this was actually HF.
Okay, sorry.
Yep. So, and again, as a reminder, that's just on a wire antenna that I built myself, that I elevated in my trees, and I am feeding it with some really good coax. That's the one thing. But this is on and I'll get a picture and probably put it inside the video here, but that's on my Yaesu FT991 Alpha. It's kind of my shack radio, and it does UHF VHF as well into an antenna that's set up outside as well.
Bro, since we are on the gear and mindset episode, let me ask you, is that a buy once, cry once radio right there?
I would say that is one. I mean, it's not that expensive. I think excuse me, I think I spent around $1,200 on that radio. It's not too expensive, but that's an average for a decent radio.
Okay.
$12 to $1,500, sometimes upwards of $2,000. But then, like, I've got an amp sitting over here as well that was actually at 100 watts just then. So I haven't hooked up my amp on this yet. I've just been enjoying doing it at 100 watts.
Cool.
So.
Well, that's a cool demonstration, brother.
Well, and I have one other thing to say about comms, because some folks may be interested in another technology, and this is called DMR, digital mobile radio. And I'll say this real quick. This actually does tie into into the internet, and you can talk around the world on this, but I kind of see that as a little bit of a cheat when it really comes down to it, because under hard times, you're not going to be able to tie into the internet. But one of the things that I like about this is it's 2-channel TDMA, and it uses a color code. So there's 2 color codes, and then you can choose a private talk group that essentially, unless you have the DMR radio itself and you know all of that, both the frequency, the channel, the color code, and the actual talk group code, there's no way you're getting in and to monitor that conversation. So that's pretty darn secure comms. Not encrypted per se, but it nearly is. So that's just one technology I was going to bring up was DMR. But man, I think that does it for comms. I just wanted to encourage people to consider, communications, either using MURS, which I think folks, if they want to get into the bottom end of it, MURS is the way to go. You don't need a license.
Now, bro, what is that acronym? Spell that out.
It's multi-use radio. Multi-use service radio.
Okay.
Man, I can't even talk. Multi-use radio service. Golly.
Okay. That's all right.
Do a little bit of editing tonight.
Nah. We'll leave that in there.
Well, cool. Well, listen, man, I think that was fun. I'm glad we finally got a QSO over the HF. I was like, man, it's been a lot easier to get people. It was a little harder at that point.
Yeah, excellent stuff, brother, and thanks for bringing that demo. That was fascinating and fun for me to hear. I'll say that.
Well, cool.
Now,
cool, man. Go ahead.
You finish what you're saying, brother.
Oh no, man. I'm just cool with moving on to our next subject.
Well, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but as we get into some fun talk about our range days and range reports, etc., I did want to bring up one topic, Eric, and that is the low ready position. Now that sounds real basic. It's, people think, okay, what's important about the low ready position? Well, here's the deal. Anyone that has taken any classes from Tom Givens, and especially the instructor development courses, you're going to get a lot of education in, or at least a lot of use in the low ready position. And how I want to explain that is if you have to draw your pistol in a self-defense situation where you point your pistol down basically at a 45-degree angle and you're pointing it before, right? What I mean by before is below someone's feet when you're talking about an angular distance, right? Because now I doubt very seriously here in Oklahoma someone would prosecute me for pointing a weapon at someone that in the end I did not have justification for doing that. But there are some municipalities and states where there are liberal anti-gun politicians and DAs that will try and bring a felony charge against you for pointing a weapon at someone. And I just have to highlight, too, there was a case, and forgive me, but I could not find this info because it's kind of probably buried in other news and other search results. But there was an instance during the BLM, Black Lives Matter riots in the last couple of years where a guy was defending himself, at least trying to fend off a mob. And since he waved his pistol at multiple people, he got multiple felony charges. So again, I think this is a rare situation, but if you've got a not shoot yet situation, it is advisable that if, let's just say you drew your pistol in what you felt was a shoot situation, and all of a sudden, like these things go, it wasn't a shoot situation after you drew your pistol. Well, put that pistol down at the low ready and assess what's going on so you're not flagging people, you're not flagging bystanders, you're not flagging even criminals that don't need a gun pointed at them, right, Eric?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's just so many instances or scenarios that you can even think of, or live situations where a person, at least at that point, doesn't need a gun pointed at him. And let's face it, and you're not just brandishing your firearm just to display it just because you want to, and you know
That's another dangerous situation legally.
exactly. But for some reason, you have your thought process is that this could go lethal, and you decide that you draw your pistol, draw it to low ready, and interestingly enough, that's all that it was necessary, and that person stands down. Now, what I want to make sure that I'm clear on that, it de-escalated because you had the presence of that firearm, but you didn't have to point it at them. But let's say you didn't have that, and it went lethal before you had made the decision to draw your pistol, and then you're in a worse, possibly entangled fight. But I mean, I think there's all kinds of scenarios we can think of where making sure that we're not covering meat with the muzzle when it doesn't need to be done just yet, that it's just important to have that in our training. And you and I have been we added that into our curriculum where that's a part of our classes.
Most certainly. And I'll be honest too, it's a weird position for me to go up to and shoot from. So I need practice at it. But if you get a little bit of practice at it, you've got your pistol in hand, you don't have to be pointing it at someone to get it into the fight quickly if you're needing to. So, we don't need to belabor this issue, but I just want to make sure that our audience members think about this and maybe even look into the legal aspects in their neck of the woods, because, something specific aspects of this may be different in states, but you know what is pretty darn universal is covering yourself when it comes to legal aspects by just not pointing the gun at someone once you get into a position where, wait, I may not have to point this at someone right now, and it just went non-lethal within the last second and a half when I drew this pistol. So,
well, and I think, excuse me, I think I think the most important takeaway for our audience members is simply that you need to add this in your training, both your dry fire practice, and in your range practice. You need to make sure that you're adding the low ready, the draw to low ready, and the ready to a firing position, or of course you're doing your full draw to shot, but making sure that you are cognizantly adding that into your training to where you're mixing it up, because then that way it becomes more readily used in your toolbox.
Yeah. Well, again, I just wanted to bring that up because that's an important issue, and in these times of litigious anti-gun cases where prosecutors, they may not even have a case, but they're going to punish you for having a firearm, and you being a advocate of the Second Amendment and protecting yourself, they're going to go ahead and punish you with the legal system. So just wanted to bring that up, brother. Now, on from that, bro, you went to the range today. You want to talk about what you did and what you're dry firing and what you're prepping for?
Yeah, so as you know, I have the Modern Samurai Project Red Dot instructor class coming up the end of the month.
Jelly.
Which I'm super pumped about. Yeah, I wish that you were going to be here for it. But a full disclosure, man, I went after you and I took the Range Master Advanced class. I just didn't shoot as much the last couple of months again, just because I periodize in my training. Of course, I've been to the range. I've been practicing, and I dry fire on a regular basis. But leading up to this class, I'm like, I probably better, really pick up the pace and maybe even just work on some of the stuff I know we're going to work on, which is, I'm sure at some point, and if we don't, I believe we will in the class, but is to shoot the MSP black belt standards. And I mean, the reality is that there's some good skills developed in that set, and I think I can articulate them. So essentially, you have one at 3 yards, and it's from concealment, and you draw and fire 3 rounds to the chest, two at a goodness, I can't reach from here, but a 3x5 card. And I think the black belt standards, I think you got to do that in 2 seconds. And I'm telling you, I'm not getting there yet. At some point, I hope to. And he has it articulated all the way down to blue belt. So like you got blue, purple, brown, and black, like the jiu-jitsu belt system. And then you also have a draw to 1 shot at 7 yards, and for the black belt standards, that's in under a second. And the next one is a bill drill in under 2 seconds. So that's 7 yards, or is it 2.5? Here, let me.
And bro, everything is from draw and concealment, right?
Yes, mm-hmm.
I've got these basically open all the time on my phone, because I was practicing them 6 months ago.
So it is the bill drills in 2 seconds. So 7 yards, 6 shots, and then 1 shot at 25, and that's in a 1.5 seconds for the black belt. I mean, just for instance, I can. I've been using the purple belt pars. I've been going further down into the black belt pars too, but just realistically, I've been the purple belt is 2.5 for the 3 and 2. It's 1.3 seconds for the 7 yard 1 shot. The bill drill's 2.5 seconds, and the 25 yard shot is in under 2 seconds. And that in and of itself is pretty saucy itself.
Hey, I mean, just to highlight this, I'm scrolling through that, and you can search this, the Modern Samurai Project Black Belt Standards. I'm seeing his list here, and there are 18 people that have successfully done this in Scott Jedlinski's presence. And I'll put it this way. If you can get these black belt standards, you're probably a GM in USPSA.
I'd say getting pretty close at least.
GM, not master, GM, grandmaster. But yeah, it's some tough stuff.
Yeah, and full disclosure, Scott himself is master level in USPSA.
He's master, not grandmaster.
Correct. Okay. But he's probably, he said that he's about 95% on his own standards.
Then that's a legit standard then, right? When the guy that put them together may not get them every time.
Yeah, and so I think that holds a lot of water, that those are some valid standards. And to me, as I've dry fired with them a little bit, and then I shot some of it today at the range. Unfortunately, it was a little crowded. I didn't get to shoot them all. Is that I just think, man, out of those 4, it's fairly low round count. There's a lot of mechanics, a lot practice in those standards. I think, man, I wish that I'd been paying more close attention to it. Now, I was aware of them. I just hadn't really been including them in my practice. So I'm looking forward to running them with Scott.
Yeah,
here in a few weeks.
That'll be awesome. I can't wait to hear how that goes, and we'll have to do an AAR on that on one of our Gear and Mindset episodes coming up. But I'm sure it's just going to be a blast to learn from Scott. I discovered him on YouTube just like the FBI did to get him as an instructor. Discovered him on YouTube, and just hearing him speak and articulate his high ability to articulate important concepts is reminiscent of the great Craig Douglas, who's a master communicator for sure, and he's known for that. Well, then I guess, Eric, then I can tell a little bit of a story about what I did today. Sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
So
it's kind of a impromptu accountability, which we hadn't done in a while.
Yes, it is. Now, so audience, I'm sure a lot of you can see this on YouTube. So this, okay, let's just be frank. Nothing super sexy about this, but I got this from my father-in-law today. This is a Gen 3 Glock 19, which, Eric, as you know, is Jesus's gun.
That's right.
Now, this thing has been in his closet for 10 years. Not a shot fired through it. Bro,
that's crazy.
There's no wear on anything in this thing. The copper lube is still in there. So I am going to send this off to Ernest Langdon to have him work some magic in it.
Awesome.
And, man, they've got a cool laser grip job. I've been in contact with the awesome Amy Langdon, just asking her a few questions about what I can have done because I kind of want to tweak it a little bit, not necessarily just what they have on their website. So I think they're going to be able to do what I want to do, and I'll give an update once I finally have that done.
Like you just said, you were jelly. Now I'm jelly.
Man, even though it's a Tupperware gun and Glocks are like Honda Civics, man, they're still, in my estimation, the best fighting pistol there is. Now, there's others that are equal. I understand that. But I'm just a Glock fan, and so it's pretty sweet to get a brand new Glock, wouldn't you say, bro?
Well, Aaron, just a throwback to the late great James Yeager, and again he came around and of course he liked a lot of other pistols, but at one point he said, I'm see if I can articulate this. He said that was his arrogant opinion, and he used those words.
I remember this.
I think he said that all pistols should be Glocks, all Glocks should be 9mm, and all 9mm Glocks should be Model 19s.
Bro, it's, in my opinion, man, it's the closest thing to a perfect pistol. Just like there's no perfect guitar for everything, all these guitars around me. It's kind of the closest thing, in my opinion. Now,
well, and we always, like when we had Eric Gilhouse on just recently, there are we have audience members that aren't likely Glock fans. Mm-hmm. We got audience members that prefer the pistols. They might prefer the M&P. They might prefer 1911, so on and so forth. Those are all fine pistols. SIGs, SIGs 365 series, man.
Those are hot right now.
Man, those are they're killing it, man. And the SIG got the 365 right, man. I really like that pistol.
Well, and Eric, I think I mentioned this on another episode. After I get this 19 done with Langdon, I've got my eyes on a staccato. I've gone back and forth on, seeing about getting a decent 1911 and souping it up a little bit, getting one of the. I'm still not totally writing off the Prodigy, but I just know that it's going to take a little bit of tweaking, as Eric Gelhaus mentioned. I just think when you're used to something that runs like a Glock and you're getting into the 1911, 2011 world, which I'm going to get into, I don't want I don't want to have to mess with it, right? The least amount as possible, and that staccato. And when you shake it up and you look at other options and you look at what you need to do to get a 1911 running, let's just say as reliable as a Glock, it's going to run you a lot of money. And then the $2,700, which it sounds like is about what I'm going to have to put in that staccato. And I believe that's including a new optic, but it's not that much relatively. But just one more thing before I stop talking about this. He had a big stack of magazines with this thing too.
Oh, wow.
So 4 OEM 15 rounders, and he had recently bought some ammo and got part of the ammo deal. He got 3 Magpul PMags. Bro, I don't need Glock magazine. I don't need to buy Glock magazines for the rest of my life because this is just adding to my already large collection. So,
yeah, I thought about that not too long ago, both with the AR magazines that I have on hand and the Glock magazines I have on hand. Yeah, I've got enough magazines. I mean, I'm not saying, because I've got several stashed in the package too.
mm-hmm.
So I don't think I need to buy any magazines. I don't.
Yeah, it's funny. At our age, bro, I start thinking of things like I'll look at how many cables I have. I was thinking about this morning, how many magazines I have for our pistols and stuff and ARs. And it really is, I sit there and think, I'm going to be on this planet shorter than I've been here, right? And I start thinking, okay, this stuff's going to last me the rest of my life. So it's just funny to think in those terms, and I do it a lot lately. But so yeah, that's what I did today. Got a new Glock. It's 10 years old, but not a daggum shot fired through it. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Now, look,
that is awesome, man.
Now, I guess an accountability on my shooting. I have been working the 5x5 classifier for IDPA quite a bit because what it comes down to it now, man, there might be just some smoking shooters listening to this right now, but I can shoot an IDPA match better than what my qualifier scores say. So in my opinion, they changed the standards for the qualifications and they're a little bit hotter than the way a lot of people are actually competing in the matches. So people say, don't practice the qualifier. You need to be where you're at. But wait a minute. If I'm competing right now, I'm competing at about the expert level. I'm working on getting up to master. But I've only shot the qualifier expert solidly, I think 2 or 3 times. The rest of the time, I keep hovering around that just right below expert, which is higher sharpshooter. But then I go to a match and compete with the experts and sometimes the masters, right? So I've been working on that. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to keep my round count fairly low tomorrow. I think I'm just going to shoot 150 rounds so I can get back home to my family, but I'm going to shoot that 5x5 a handful of times, and then I'm going to throw out a bull at 25 yards and work on tightening my groups up. Since, again, because of my new vision, my new bionic vision, I'm finally able to hit targets at a decent grouping at 25 yards, but I still have a lot of work to do on it since I've really never done it until this last year. So...
Well, and again, I shot today. I'm going back out tomorrow too, man. I'm gonna hit it back up as well, and I'm gonna work on the MSP standards again, and I'm gonna do some B8 bull again. I only got to shoot one group at 25 today. Just it was crowded. They had the pistol range shut down, and so I was sharing the space over on the rifle range, and being able to call the cold range when I needed to go, pace my target, or I'd set up 3 targets. I set up one at 7, one at 10, one at 25. But you know how it goes, man. When you're at a range like that, it was tough.
Well,
So I only shot one group.
and I'm pretty spoiled. I know a lot of people. Tom Givens, for one, we talk about one of our great mentors. I think the range that he has is an indoor range, and he has to do a lot of work sitting there at an indoor range where probably the only thing he can really do is draw and rapid fire. We know that a lot of these FUD ranges won't even let you quote rapid fire. Can't draw from a holster, etc. But man, I am spoiled. I go to my range. I think I counted it. There are 30, bro. There are 30 bays at my range. So and it's cram packed these days after this COVID mess and the riots and lots of people. And I'm proud to say lots of minorities in my city have started purchasing weapons and learning to shoot. That range is 4 times as full as it was 2 years ago. Let's just say 2.5 years ago. But when I go there, I just go there at a decent time, and there is a bay with my name on it, so I can do whatever the heck I want. A 25-year-old crap, a 25-yard bay or a 50-yard bay. I can get one of those and shoot exactly how I want, not have to worry about pacing up targets and calling a cold range, etc. Again, I'm spoiled.
Yeah, that is a nice range. Of course, I've shot out there with you, and we took the Travis Haley class out
Which
there.
was a blast.
Yeah. You're lucky to have that. There's a range that I'm waiting on I'm on a waiting list that has similar bays like that. But I'm lucky, the range I shoot at right now is on post on Fort Bragg.
Do you have to pay anything for that?
Yeah. I mean, it's an MWR range, but it's minimal fee. It's
you military people and your dadgum acronyms. What are you saying there?
Morale and welfare.
Oh,
sorry, man. Yeah, I'm bad about it.
What'd you say? MWO.
MWR.
Okay.
Yes, so morale and welfare and recreation.
Okay.
Recreation.
That's cool.
But and again, most of those MWR ranges, they don't let you draw from the holster, and you can't shoot fast. But not this range. Of course, this is the home of special forces. So, can you imagine telling some dude that's in the unit or high up in, SF, you tell him you can't draw from the holster, he's not qualified?
Yeah.
I'd say that probably wouldn't go over well. But, so, I mean, I love that range out there, and they're good people. Now, you can't do a lot of movement, or you can't do movement, but, I mean, every dynamic drill you can do from a standing position is still good enough.
Awesome.
So... Well, man, I don't know, bro. I think we probably talked enough. What do you think?
I think so, man. And yeah, I wanna go chill out with my family, eat some dinner, maybe watch a movie. Eric, I'll tell you, I don't know if I should really confess this, but my family's been watching. What's it called? Never watched it. What the heck is it? Oh, The Hunger Games. Jennifer Lawrence in there. That's enough to watch it, I guess. But no, we're having fun because it's a family thing, and we've been going through those movies the last week. So I think we're gonna.
Well, man, I like dystopias, man. It kind of emboldened me,
100%
to maintain liberty, man, because they're kind of. Just like 1984 was a cautionary tale, these dystopian movies, man, they're cautionary tales as well.
Bro, and we'll let the audience go here, and I'll let you go here in a second, but I will say this. As I'm watching it, they've got these districts, right? I think it's like districts 1 through 13 or something like that. And essentially, all those districts supply food and goods and basically just support, quote, the capital, right? To me, once you really think about it, what we really are to elites is tax dollars. And it's to me, that movie series is a allegory of what we deal with. And another thing, there are plenty of people in this world that would like, now maybe they don't want to set up, fight to the death games like that, but there are plenty of people in this world that would love to have a dictatorship set up like that and control all these people and have their fine dining and parties and amazing houses while, we, the peasants, support them,
Well, and again, we said we weren't going to get political, but oh well. That's precisely what's happening in Washington, D.C. I mean, the policies right now, squandering energy and, the economy, the inflation rate is continuing to go up and up and up. And I mean, we are actually hurting. I wouldn't say we're hurting financially. Our available capital is much less. I mean, again, it's $45,000 to $5,000 less this year.
Yep.
And that's a big chunk. But yet the elitists in Washington D.C., they're living it up. Mm-hmm. And again, in the majority of the time, it's because they've promised largesse from the public coffers, which is us.
And then they buy votes, and then they use insider trading to get rich. Yeah. So that's enough, bro. I'm gonna go watch some of this Good Point, interesting cautionary dystopian stories with Jennifer Lawrence in it. So
cool. Well, bro, man, you have a good evening, man. This has been fun.
A lot of fun. Take it easy, brother. Have fun at the range tomorrow.
Care, all right, bro. You as well.
All right. Bye-bye.
Report tomorrow.
Oh, yeah,
Bye.
definitely. Take it easy.